Greetings, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Dreamscapes. Today we have our friend John David Latta, and you said where you were at in the world, like somewhere near Seattle-ish?
Yeah, Redmond, Washington, just east of Seattle.
Nice, very nice. I had already forgotten and I forgot to write it down, but he is a teacher, mystic, and author of The Synchronicity of Love, Stories That Heal, Transform, and Awaken. We're going to get right back to him in 2 seconds. Would you kindly smash the like button, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Tell your friends, always need more volunteer dreamers, and drawn a blank on my own housekeeping. I got t-shirt, coffee mug, direct donations. You can do 14 now. 14 currently available works of historical dream literature in the post-production. I'm going to try and pop it up right there. I'll be pointing at it in post-production. That's enough. It's enough for the housekeeping. So back to our friend John David Latta, and I know basically nothing about the book or your work, and so I'm anxious to find out more.
Cool. Thank you so much, Ben. I'm super glad to be on your show.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah. Want to dive into the book a little bit?
Oh, yeah, you can tell me about your life. This is the freewheeling section where people and I get to know you a little bit, and that kind of, people find it interesting. I find it useful to help with better interpretation. So
sure. About 20 years ago, everything in my life that could have gone wrong all went wrong at the same time. Everything. And it's a complete do-over. And went to a spiritual retreat where, ironically enough, the teacher worked a lot with dreams. And it wasn't too long after that, probably the year 2003, put a dream forum online and people would post dreams, and I could not understand how people were drawing conclusions from the dreams. It was a whole different language for me. But I learned from the group, and I learned how to request my own dreams. I didn't think I was a dreamer, but like a week or two later, I could hardly turn off the floodgates. I had so many dreams. And most of the book is what I experienced for the last 20 years, and it goes on to this day, guidance from dreams. And one of the most fun, exciting, enthralling, mind-expanding parts of my life. Every night I go to bed, I can't wait to see what I wake up with. Sometimes I go a week with not much. Sometimes they just come flooding forth. I love writing them down. I love musing about them. And I told you before we got on the air here that one of the concluding chapters of my book I call The Spectrum of Dreams, because there's such a wide variety of dreams that come through now. And life has just so much more magic and enchantment in it now because of the dreams.
For sure. And that was probably the most interesting thing that I wanted to make sure to get back to, is this idea that you've kind of put together your own spectrum idea. And I have no idea what that means. Are you able to kind of give it a little description?
Yeah, you got a second here? You
sure.
Got the book handy? It's
okay to read from it if you want to, or throughout history, there's been a lot of people who've tried to categorize different types of dreams. The most common categorization is the flying dream, the falling dream, the dream of being naked in class, unprepared for the test. But do you have a different system, or is it similar?
I have a whole different system, although I've had some of those dreams too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's more like dreams open the door to just so much more. So I'll try and skim them a little bit, but
sure.
So most of my dreams, I think, are what I would call psychological dreams, probably like most people. Mm-hmm. But it's the other 10 or 20% of the time that it's like, pay attention, there's something different coming through. And so I'll give you an example. I had what I called a collective dream, where I think many people are dreaming the same thing at the same time. And right after Donald Trump got elected president, I had this profound dream of like 10,000 women marching through the streets. And the dream, I called it the return of the witch. Mm-hmm. And I woke up from the dream thinking, this must be life's way of balancing patriarchal nationalism. And almost immediately out of that came the Me Too movement and the Angry Woman movement. And I don't really think it was my dream. I think it was a lot of people's dreams. And so I've had dreams like that. I've had out-of-body experiences. I mean, I lump that in with dreams, but I've had out-of-body experiences. I had one where I was on the beach at dawn, about waist deep in the water in the ocean. I felt an earthquake. And I mean, it was just a really profound experience to be standing waist deep in the ocean during an earthquake. And I woke up and wrote it down. And later that day, found out at that exact same time, 6:32 a.m., Southern California at the beach had had a mild, not much, like a 3 or 4 earthquake. I'm like, I know, I was there. And I don't have a lot of them, but I've had some shockingly precognitive dreams. One of them sounds kind of simple, but I had an employee that I worked with, and I had a dream about her daughter. And it was like a dream that lasted 2 seconds long. It was just like a visual of this woman's daughter and this big dude from Texas. And somehow I knew they were engaged to be married. And so I cautiously, this one employee, we sometimes would share dreams. And I said, yeah, I had this dream about your daughter. And she was engaged to this big dude from Texas. And she goes, no, my daughter's not dating anybody. She's certainly not some guy from Texas. Well, about a month later, she shows me a picture and she goes, John. I'm like, that's the guy. And it was 2 years later, they got engaged and got married.
Wow.
And how I knew in that, it was just like this visual and instant knowing. And so I had what I call course correction dreams. I had one where Jesus came to me and said fighting was not my true north. And it was a beautiful, profound dream because I tend to slip into arguments and arguing a little too easily. I've had dreams for other people that it was like they weren't paying attention to their own dreams, and I had a dream for them, and they're like, okay, I get the message, Sometimes my dreams, frankly, are just voices, just a sentence or two here and there. And I call it dreams of balance. Sometimes when I get too far to one way, a dream comes to kind of push me back the other direction. Dreams of seeing deeper into other people. Like I had dreams of people I know who are, say, musicians, and it would always sort of transform into Native Americans or indigenous people before my eyes. And they were people I know that had a hard time with like logic and structure and much more, tied to nature. So I think I was seeing deeper into them. I write all my dreams down, and so I cut dreams as ongoing stories or narratives. Sometimes I see the same damn theme over and over and over again, and there's a big shift. And when that big shift happens, does my outer life start to shift?
Yeah.
I was a slow comer to past lives, but boy, I've had so many dreams of past lives now. It's just kind of crazy. And then not many times, but a few times in my life, I toured sacred sites. I went to like Stonehenge and sacred sites in England. I went to all the Mayan ruins. I went to Egypt. I went to all the temples. And the dreams would come crashing in where it felt like I was tuning into the energy and history of the place, come crashing in night after night. Healing dreams. I have quite a few stories in my book of I had chronic neck pain for 6 years, and I had blamed being rear-ended in a car accident. And it was so bad, I would come home early in the day just in tears. I can't believe I'll have to live this way the rest of my life. And I had a dream come through. True story, Benjamin. I went home. I was in tears. I was in such pain. I laid down, and I said, why the fuck does my neck hurt so bad? And I barely got the words out of my mouth. And this profound dream comes through of a monk in a red robe and his head shaved is pacing back and forth outside my house. And again, in the early days, I'm like, how the heck? I felt like it was trying to tell me something about my neck, but I didn't get it. And in that dream forum I was a part of, Brew Joy was the fellow that founded and started it. And he goes, John, that has everything to do with why your neck hurts. I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get it. And so slowly he tried to show me, he goes, you have this spiritual side, this monk side, this selfless service side, and you're complete denial of it. And you are one of those people that has resistance in your neck. And it actually is true. And he goes, I want you to open to the possibility that there's more to you than what you think there is. And honestly, it took 2 years. And then came like the final culminating dream where, it's 2 years later, and in the dream, I'm sitting in my office, and I have a large golden thumbtack in my hand. It's like inches long, big 2-inch head on it, and I reach around and just stick it in a bulletin board behind me, but it feels strange. So as I turn around, poking it right into the heart of this Buddhist monk, and he's smiling at me with such love. I realized my neck didn't hurt anymore. So it's just been like a lifelong journey to realize that when I start to resist things, it gets held in my neck. And dreams have helped me heal a lot of things too. So I wrote down dreams can be healing.
Yeah.
Want to keep going?
Well, I've got.
You want me to take a breath?
Well, no, I'm fascinated by the whole thing, and it's great to be getting all this perspective from you. So I've had several thoughts. I probably should have been writing them down because I'm not going to remember them all. But first thing came to mind, or maybe work backwards. Not for last thing. Most recently came to mind. The idea of having a psychological or spiritual experience that's manifesting itself in physical pain. That reminds me of the basic concept of psychosomatic pain, which a lot of people misunderstand in the terms of, oh, it's not real. Well, it's not. It might feel. What does real mean? The pain is really there. People really feel psychosomatic pains, but they are more caused by inner conflict psychologically than, say, you may have the sensation of a cramp, and the cramp is there, but it's not being caused by physical, buildup of lactic acid, or you slept wrong or something like that. It might actually be something you're struggling with, something so intensely. And for you, very interesting symbolism there too, with the neck, the idea of letting maybe the heart chakra up into the head in a way. I'm not an expert on that kind of stuff, but if there's a blockage there, there's this tensing of don't let it into my consciousness. You would maybe develop a neck pain that's symbolic of that resistance. But I don't know if that's how it was explained to you.
Well, yeah, and again, everything makes sense looking backwards. Right. When you're in it, it doesn't always make sense, And I forgot I left one little dream out. There was a dream where this gentleman, Brujoy, who created the Dream Forum, and he was a really popular spiritual teacher years ago. And in the dream, he's coming towards me. He's going to heal my neck. And he puts his hand out like, energy healer. And I'm like, oh, thank God, And right when he goes to put his hand on my neck, this angry old man who lives in my neck says, get the fuck away. And so it was like there was the visual of the tension in this curmudgeonly old man, like, I'm not letting this stuff in. So it's still been a journey to this day of opening and not letting myself resist things mentally. That's not always a conscious process. You know what I mean? It's, and my wife and I have talked about, some people carry tension in the belly, some in the head. I tend to, if I'm resisting something, I get the sore neck. And now I'm onto it.
For sure. Yeah. And you're actually, so another thought I had during this whole listening to you was, I am reading historical dream literature available on Amazon in the description, all that good stuff. But most of these guys are fascinated by dreams and wrote their books because they have dreams. And they're like, what does this mean? And they did their own reading and research. They did their own philosophical exploration, talked to other doctors, philosophers and whatnot. And they put most of them very heavily, not heavily necessarily, because a lot of them contains a lot of information, but they rely on their own experiences of dreams for examples and to say, and especially with the categorization of different types of dreams. So it's very interesting. You found your own categorizational system in the same way they did, by just looking at their own dreams and saying, these seem to be of this type. These seem to be of this type. And they just describe it. You write a book and, who knows, 200 years from now, someone may be resurrecting your historical dream literature to republish at a future time, as an exemplar of someone who did the work of examining themselves. Also reminds me of, what was it, book 6, Studies in Dreams by Mary Arnold Forster. She wrote that whole book basically about her experience with lucid dreaming and being able to fly in dreams and pull herself out, either to awaken from bad dreams or change the nature of her dreams, going, I know this is a dream. I'm going to fly away because I can. And she did. And she taught, this is her own self-report. So a lot of the books I'm going through, it's historical analysis within the book itself, and going back to the Greeks and Romans and whatnot. Many of them cover a lot of the same material, but a lot of their own fascination comes from their own experience. So you're carrying on this grand tradition of authors writing about their own dream experiences. Yeah.
Well, it's fun. I have discovered already in marketing my book, fellow dreamers get it. And sometimes hard to tell other people that don't have this experience and this relationship with their dreams what it's really like. And I was one of those people for a long time. I mean, I remember a few scary nightmares when I was a kid. Other than that, I don't really remember. If I had dreams, I didn't pay attention to them. And then, boy, when they opened up, it's like, what the heck have I been missing my whole life? Yeah. I love some of the stories that, I don't know if it was Edison, even Salvador Dali would, try to enter that sort of dream space and then bring themselves out of it because they knew there were answers to questions there. There were answers to really important things that they just couldn't get. They were awake. And I've had that experience as well, too. It's like, for me, I have to almost pose the question and fall asleep. And if the question's clear and sincere, the answer's right there.
And that is a consistent report I'm getting from a lot of folks. It's a weird thing. It doesn't work for everybody. Or maybe it could with the right training, etc. But there's definitely a certain group of people who are not very easily, but seem more innately able to program their dreams in a way. Like, I'm going to go to bed tonight. I'm thinking about a specific problem. That is what I will dream about. And they do. And because they're paying attention, they wake up the next day and they get an answer to what they were looking for. That has happened to me, sort of. I have not had success with specific dream programming, remembering what the dream was. I 99.9% of the time don't even remember I dreamed at all. And when I do, it's so vague, I got nothing. I give an example. A couple months back, I remember I was standing outside an open car door. That is the only image. I don't know what I was doing there. Was I getting in? Was I getting out? Was I holding the door for somebody else? Was it a car that represented? It wasn't even a car. Was it made of cake? Hell if I know. Right? But here's what I do is, and I tell people out there, you don't have to dream. You don't have to analyze your dreams, but you can sleep on it. It's just the idea, the broad idea of sleep on it. If you're not sure of what to do about something, I like the analogy, let it percolate like coffee. Coffee's got to brew. It takes time. And often if you just don't make a decision right away, sleep on it, you wake up the next day, and whatever the process, magic that happens in your head in the middle of the night, you wake up the next day having put some pieces together on your own, and you feel more certain about a direction to go with a particular choice. In some ways, I don't even know that it's necessary to understand how it works, other than my pure fascination with that concept in general. But I want to know how everything works. But just the fact that it does work, and that people can experiment with that themselves. Don't beat yourself up about being undecided. Literally sleep on it. Make the decision tomorrow. And that's ancient advice too. That goes way back with people saying, sleep on it. So I want to tell them it still works. It still works. It always worked.
I totally agree. I don't know how it all works either, Benjamin, but right? Sometimes I think it's this, and then later I think it's that. And, sometimes, some people's reality is, well, I got information from my guides or my angel spoke to me. Mm-hmm. I'm okay with that because some have said that guidance is available to all of us if it's real guidance and not just some other voice in your head.
Oh, yeah.
It won't do your work for you. People tend to ask, myself included, a very black and white, yes or no, should I do this or not do this? I never get answers to those dreams. But if I'm sincere about, like you said, I've just got this problem, I need some more insight into it, and I need some help with this, dream will come forth. It's sort of like, again, or I might have a whole different view, but it's sort of like the guides are like, we're here to help, but you're still doing it yourself. Yeah. And so any black and white, yes or no, you don't get an answer to that. But we'll give you a little guidance if you want to go this direction or that direction.
For sure. And that whole idea of a guide, and there's a lot of ways to conceive of what's going on. And I've got my own ideas. So lately, I've been kind of trying to Well, I've always said since I started this, a year and a half, 2 years ago, I have no idea what I'm doing. This is just what I do, and it seems to work. So I'm trying to actually understand what the hell I'm doing. And so I'm nailing down these little parts. And some people have said that like dreams come for a reason, as if there's a message to deliver. And that's, as you were saying, like it's metaphorically true, even if it isn't physically true in a way. I'm still trying to formulate how to express this, but I mean, we have, and a lot of folks think of the subconscious as a separate entity within us, and that might have come from the Freudian breakdown of like id, ego, and superego. And it's like, but it's all part of the same whole. It's kind of like this deep reservoir of every experience and memory and emotion we've ever had. It's hardwired by neuronal connections in our brain. It's all there. But then there's right now what we're doing, and that's tip of the iceberg style, very narrow focus. So it isn't that the subconscious is its own separate entity, but that has a will or a purpose in sending a message up. But if your conscious mind and your focus and your own will is seeking certain answers or asking certain questions or existing in a space of temporary confusion for the purpose of trying to figure out what you want or how something should go. And then you let yourself have that time to think it over. Even thinking it over is a bad way to put it, because sometimes it just means don't think about it. Let it be. Let it be, and it'll just, you've already thought all the thoughts are. Don't obsess. And that's I'm all over the place in this, but that's also part of why sometimes taking a break and doing something else for a while, busy your hands with a different task, gives you better clarity on what you were doing before. So I think the same thing happens in our dreams at night, is we kind of fall into that pool of our own subconscious, and all the ideas we couldn't latch onto because we were in this conscious focus suddenly come swimming around us like is this what you meant? Is this what it looks like? What do you think about this possibility? Without a filter, without us accepting or rejecting or putting value or weight on any of those ideas. So the subconscious does communicate with us, but it is just a part of us that we don't have that voluntary access to all the time. It's kind of my current working theory.
You're jumping around there, but I totally agree with you. I totally get it. In fact, I haven't really thought about it. Like, sometimes I'm wrestling with something and I'm hoping for a dream and the dream doesn't come through, but I totally grok what you're saying about step away from it. I heard somebody say, well, I beat that thought up enough. I think I'll give it a break now.
Yeah.
And go for a walk, take a shower. I've got a yard here, so I've got a riding mower, and I get my best ideas sitting on my lawnmower. So
no, for sure. I get a lot of those sudden inspirations that you can't force out of the tube, so to speak. They just come to you. And usually when you're doing something else, you got to take that was another thing I was going to phrase it in terms of, I lost it completely. But the other thing, I'm trying to remember all the things you said like 20 minutes ago and get back to it. That's my perspective on dreams. What do I mean by that? What is that? I believe personally, just because it's the only thing I can prove or I think is reliable, that all these dreams are coming from our own unconscious, our own perceptions and experiences. Now, that doesn't mean I don't think it's possible there's other sources. I don't understand them. I can't explain them. I can't give I can't use those alternate possibilities to give something useful to people. So I call myself a credulous skeptic, where I'm like, I don't know where prophetic dreams come from. I don't know how you dreamed the gal was going to get married and they came true, but you're not the first person who's told me that. And I believe you. I can't do that, and I can't interpret those. All I got is I got the kind of rationalist scientific perspective on the psychology of dreams. That's my specialty. So I'm trying to stay in my lane in that regard, but like open to all kinds. I love hearing the stories. I'm like, that blows my mind. And you're not the only one. Like it's in these books I'm reading. People I know told me they've had dreams literally a week later. That exact specific experience came true. I don't know what to do with any of those. So I don't pretend that I do understand it.
I don't understand it either. And, I have a huge skeptic, a huge cynic, a curmudgeonly old man. And he completely battles with this other side of me that's kind of wide open sometimes. And
yeah.
So I heard somebody say, yeah, they get marooned on the island of logic sometimes. It's like, yeah, I've been there.
Yeah.
I read a book not too long ago called Angels in My Hair, and it's a lady who lives in Ireland.
Yeah.
It was a really popular book, I don't know, 5 years ago, something like that. And she's been seeing and communicating with angels from birth. That's just her reality. She says literally and I think she would be comfortable substituting the word angel for a guide. She says angels can take any form, and sometimes they'll take a form that person's comfortable with. Her reality is when she's awake by day, she sees these angels everywhere. And she says everybody without fail has a guardian angel. She says there are millions of unemployed angels just asking for help, asking like, put me to work, So that's her reality. And so she said, every one of us has essentially an angel whispering in our ear all the time. Just don't listen to it. And so, but even her experience in my reading of the book, it felt like dreams because the angels would reveal certain things to her, even precognitive things, but not everything, just some things. She'd even ask, what about this? Not going to tell you. So she never really could make any sense about, why did you show me this, but not that? Can't tell you. Yeah. So there's some bigger, grander plan that everybody doesn't see the whole picture. It's kind of like that analogy of all the people touching the elephant. And so she's seeing it from one angle and I'm seeing it from another angle and you're seeing it from another angle, but it's hard to capture the big whole picture. I had the only, I'm going to call it mystical experience I ever had in my entire childhood. I did have one precognitive dream. I used to live in Southern California, and I had a little sailboat when I was 13 years old, a little Sabbath. It was an 8-foot-long sailboat. And in the summer, I'd go down by myself and drag my little boat down to the water and go sailing in the morning. And so I have this dream the night before where what I do in the summer all the time. Drive my little boat down, I'm sailing in the morning. Coming down the bay towards me is my best friend, and he's on a surfboard. It's light blue in color with an inboard motor. Never seen such a thing like that. And we spent like an hour in the dream racing each other. Me and my sailboat, him on his inboard motor surfboard. Strange dream. I wake up, I go down, I drag my boat down to the water, I go down, I'm sailing. Typical Southern California, the summer is foggy in the morning, and later the wind picks up and the sun comes out and the fog burns off. So it's probably 10 in the morning. Every inch of the dream happened. Here comes down the bay on a light blue surfboard with an inboard motor. The only difference is it's my best friend's friend, who they do look like brothers. So it was Matt instead of Larry. And even right down to the angle of the sun on the water and the wind, everything took place exactly. So that messed with your head for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't have a family that talked about dreams, so I didn't really have a context for it. So a couple of days later, I just kind of forgot about it. I was like, well, that was kind of weird. And I haven't had a lot of them. I've had ones that, like show me scores of football games, and they're never right. So I'm glad I don't bet on football.
Right.
So.
That's what I don't want to do with the attempting to tackle something I don't understand. I don't want to give people wrong answers based on something I don't understand. I don't want to tell them you should bet on that game because that's true. The hell do I know? I have no idea what that is. Maybe it is, but we're not going to know until afterwards. If I ever figure out how to tell real prophetic dreams for ones that are not, I'm going to get rich real fast. And then we'll see. And then we'll see what happens. Itchy eyeballs. Well, the other thing too is, so we're talking about, and a lot of people, and I don't use this term derogatorily, although a lot of people do. There's science and there's spooky woo. And that can be anything. It can be people's religion. It can be their spirituality. It can be, but, Ouija boards and who knows, ghosts and all kinds of aliens, anything we can't put a finger on. We don't have proof, but it's possible. So that said, science gets a lot of unearned esteem sometimes. Science is a method, and we've figured out a lot of stuff, but you can ask a psychologist who's been PhD'd and he's practicing for 40 years, where do ideas come from? Where does inspiration come from? How does a musician write a whole song out of their head? nobody really knows. We got ideas, we got ways we can try and encourage that process to happen, but an idea, a suddenly occurring inspiration, it's like magic. And that's why you go all the way back to the Greeks and whatnot, and they think, well, the muses, of course, this extra, there's gods that control that, and they give you songs if they want to. They're capricious. But this also can, so I promise this connects. I get these whole trains of thought. They used to think of inspiration or thoughts like that, since they didn't know where it coming from. They labeled it daimon, and it was kind of an externally introduced concept, idea, or thing that would be put into people. And we thought of it, where the Greeks did, coming from the gods and whatnot. So they would describe in some, like in the most recent book 14, Dreams in Homer and Greek mythology, and Greek tragedy. Sorry. They described the dream being sent, I think, from Zeus to Achilles as a dream daimon. And then daimon actually later became kind of translated into demon. And that's where we get angels and demons to tell them apart. Whereas a good, healthy, positive inspiration from God, well, that's an angel by definition, and a demon being a unhealthy, wicked, tempting, nasty, hurtful demon coming from some other source, the devil or our own sinful nature, or whatever, however people describe it. So we still have these very, existing till today, these almost conceptions of external sources for these ideas, or the concept of an idea. That's my story.
Yeah. It's
very old.
It's great.
Yeah.
One thing. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I want to be respectful of your time. I know you got a hard limit. We're getting close to where I don't want us to run out of time. So, you got one more thing to say, and then we'll, go ahead.
Well, my wife and I are reading Michael Singer's new book, which is called, I think, Living Untethered. And he talks, now there's only one chapter in there about dreams, and in no way do I think he would say he's an expert. He said, see if I can make this concise. Like, we all have, say, pain, wounding, traumas, scars, say, inside of us. He said, but they want to be released. And, but we hang on to them. Just, we keep visiting our old pain with thoughts and feelings, you might say. And it kind of gets woven into our identity too. So it's harder to release than it just sounds.
Oh, yeah.
They said one of the ways it gets tried to be healed, solved, is through dreams. And so, and I think I've had experiences like that too. It's like John just kind of has to get out of the way. Dream will try to resolve things. And I don't know, that's really hard for me to put into words.
Yeah.
But sometimes dreams don't need a lot of interpretation. Sometimes they do. Sometimes it's like something just got fixed there or just got healed there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think those are the dreams.
Like I said, there's a whole spectrum of dreams. There's whole, like, all different things going on. But anyway, that was his thing, is that let the dreams come, because they actually, it's like old scars, old wounding. It wants to be released. And there's one other thing I was going to tell you. I can't remember his name. Brad Pitt, the actor. So I read some interview with him, just came out like a month or two ago. And Brad Pitt loves his dreams, writes all his dreams down, totally connected to dreams, a lot of creativity in dreams. And I forget what the dream was, but he would have the same nightmare over and over and over and over. And I think it was something terrible, like him being stabbed to death,
Oh, yeah.
And I think he read somewhere that he could do this. He decided, I go to sleep at night, that dream comes, I'm going to turn around and face it. I'm not going to wake myself and run from it. Turned around and he faced it. I would have to go back and read the article, but he realized by essentially facing his fear, facing this pain, he resolved the nightmares and they went away.
Nice.
So,
well, the first thing I'm going to say to that is, Brad Pitt, if you're out there, I would like to talk to you. Come on anytime. Not going to happen. He's probably never going to hear this, but you are welcome. We'll make it. I'll come to you. Two things. So I think that's exactly what's happening. Number one, when I go to bed and I don't remember my dream, but I wake up with additional clarity on something the next day. Something came together. Some thoughts fell in line, lined up, organized. The puzzle was completed, and some answer came out of it, whether I remember the experience or not. The results stay with me. Also, what you mentioned earlier too, and I wanted to touch on this as well. I'm glad you helped me remember the idea of changing some life circumstance and a recurring dream stopped. That has been a consistent theme with a lot of folks I've talked to and research I've done, is that very often, and my concept of it, the way I explain it, is these dreams come back because there's something you have not resolved, whatever it is. You have an unknown question, you have a behavior you wish you could stop that you're having trouble stopping. Whatever it is, if you can put those pieces together, make that change in your life, make a decision about something you've been in conflict about, the dreams stop because you don't need them anymore. Subconscious is like, we don't have to think about this anymore. Want to fly? Let's do something else, So very much so. You've hit the answer if something changes. Yeah.
I love Judith Orloff wrote a book called Second Sight, and it's also predominantly a dream book. And I love that book. And she tells a story in there about her and a partner formed some kind of business together. And there was a lot of tension between them, but neither one of them were willing to voice the tension. But the tension was rising, and they were putting on a sappy face, but they were really angry. She has this hyper vivid dream of this big forest fire that's chasing her. And it's just like bearing down on her, and she's running and running, and she had this feeling like it's going to burn everything down. And, she didn't do it consciously. Somehow in the dream, she just turned around and faced it and walked towards it, and all resolved itself. And somehow, kind of like you said, she just woke up and knew, I have to go talk to my partner because I'm so full of rage, bottled up rage, and I just need to voice all I'm pissed off about.
Yeah.
And he was pissed off too. And it was just, Dream said, you got to go talk to this guy. And a lot of people wouldn't understand, but she understood what it was trying to tell her. Instead of running from the fire, turn around, go back, talk to the guy, the very thing you don't want to do. And it all worked out great. So.
That is good. And that's powerful imagery too. That's basically how I kind of put together my own interpretations, is like, you're in danger. It's an all-consuming fire that, as you said, is going to destroy everything. What is it going to destroy? What are you struggling with right now that needs to show itself to you in this form of wake up, metaphorically, deal with this problem before it gets forest fire level, raging wildfire out of control, and just reduces everything to ash. I'm very happy when people don't need me, or rather can do that themselves and don't need anybody to help them see it. It's okay if people do, but man, when it's that powerful and clear, you can go, I know what I need to do. I would just encourage everyone listening to just pay attention for those opportunities. You may or may not be able to make them come, but you can kind of be ready for them when they do. And I think it can be tremendously helpful. Yeah.
My early days, I needed all the help I could get with dreams because, I didn't understand myth and metaphor and symbolism. And I'm like, what the hell? How did you get that interpretation? But I was really intrigued by it. So a lot of dream experts say, don't look in the dream dictionary. Don't let other people interpret your dreams. They're your dreams. And in the early days, my experience was you need help. That other person that's helping you or a group of people, they might not get it right, but it's almost like if you speak English and you have to learn to speak Chinese, because Chinese is a language of symbols. It's not done the way we do the language. Yeah. So I actually would tell people in the early days, just like you're doing on the air here, ask for help, get help.
Yeah.
And pretty soon, keep in mind, I've been doing this for 20 years now. You'll get more and more comfortable with interpreting your own dreams. Although, Benjamin, as if dreams aren't confusing enough,
Yeah.
In no way do I feel like I always have a handle on a dream I had. I feel more comfortable than ever before. And but in the early days, I needed all the help I could get. I liked looking at dream dictionaries. I liked looking online, what's the meaning of a fish in a dream,
Oh, yeah.
And I needed all that help. And in groups, I watched some people who were really good with dreams, and they would probably like yourself, when they got out of their rational mind, or were kind of helping somebody using just their intuition and kind of going with the flow with it, and unravel with the dream. That's the other thing I've had to learn is get my thinking mind out of the way, because most of the time dreams require kind of an intuitive touch.
Yeah, I think it's a good way to do it. It's not like I don't use any logic. I'm definitely trying to logically connect ideas, but there's that, I describe what I do as intuitive, because there is an unfolding of it. It's like you can't make dreams make sense, but you can discover the sense the dream has inside of it, its own internal logic. And if we can kind of just go with that, whatever it is, that usually kind of some of the dots start connecting. But I think that's a fantastic segue. You've brought us a dream, and are you ready to jump into it? We'll see what we can do together. Yeah.
I'm ready to read.
Yeah, my usual process. You just tell me the dream, beginning to end, as it played out in your head, whatever you can remember. And then we'll go back through it again, and then we'll put something together between the two of us. So I'll just shut up and listen.
Okay. Here's the dream. Have an office with a bed in it, sort of open air. When I get there, I see a young boy, about 2 years old, and he's peed all over the bed, bright yellow urine. Quickly gets off the bed, goes out a door, and runs down a hallway. Follow him. There's a class at the end of the hallway that has just ended. I see the boy go up to a young man. I ask the young man if this is his son, and he says yes. He says he apologizes for his son, says my son has diabetes. Tell him that his son peed all over my bed. The young father has a speech impediment. Badly, go back and start stripping the bed. I take the sheets to a washing machine up on a second level, like a second floor, where I can look down on my open-air office and bed. I decide to wash everything with detergent, since the urine is fresh and not dried. I think I should set up some walls, landlord's help, around my office so this doesn't happen again. Here I hear another man, his office to a new location, set it all up with what looks like a music recording studio. I was so happy. I thought it sounded really cool, and I was envious, even though I don't play instruments. The end.
Okay. Good enough. Yeah, and dreams, as I often say to folks, they don't have to take very long to tell. They can all come out in 90 seconds, under a minute sometimes. And then the one that just went up, this week now when we're recording, but it'll be last week when this posts, it was like an 8-minute description, long dream. And we went through as much as,
Wow.
and you never know. You never know what you're going to get out. And there's always more. There's always more than you think. So I lost a little bit of it as we were going, wrote as fast as I could, but some of the great details you had, and I'm glad you got it written down so you can refresh your own memory and help me see it more clearly. So you start in the very beginning, you're in a home office.
No, it feels more like the kind of office where there's a bunch of cubicles, but it's kind of open air. There's not like really defined walls around it.
Okay.
So like a big kind of open air office, not like where there's walls and you go and lock the door behind you.
So it is very much not at home, but in more of like an office building setting, very like professional setting.
Yeah, I mean, because it was an office, and I don't know why my bed is in my office, but it's quite large.
Yeah. Now, was this? You said it's open air and there's no cubicles. So what's the general size of it? Are we looking at the size of my garage, 20 by 30, or we're looking like 60 by 70, large?
Yeah. Well, the kind of thing you could probably put 24 cubicles in. So I don't know what that were, 100 feet by 100 feet, maybe a little small, 80 by 80, let's say. Okay.
And it doesn't have to be exact, and there was nothing else in there. Just, this was all your office.
Yeah, that's all I remember. I mean, I had probably office stuff like a desk and a computer, and I had a bed. It felt like an office environment too. Like there may have been other people around me too, like in the office.
But you didn't see them? You didn't see any of their equipment, or no other desks and computers and no other activities happening?
We didn't, but it feels like there's more people there. Like maybe I was just there on a day when nobody was at work, and it's kind of like everybody had desks.
Gotcha.
And I had a bed too, but there weren't any walls between us. That's the best way I can put it. No walls, no cubicles. Close the door, lock the door, anything.
Gotcha. And that's interesting. Now, why did I ask that? Hell if I know. I'm just very curious about what is this experience. So, but it kind of drew out the idea that so I'm looking at that like, why such a big office? So it's not a home office. It's not even maybe a small room in a larger building, and that's your office. It's an open air office space where you would maybe expect there to be other people present, maybe, or other equipment. The idea of this is a space. The size of the space is justified by the usage of the space. So I was trying to tease out what, was this space all yours? No, actually, you had the feeling there just weren't any other people there at the time, but this was not your private space necessarily. That's a different kind of way of looking at what is this space and what's your relationship to it? How do you fit into it in what it feels like? What does that mean? No idea, of course, but that's where my brain goes trying to figure these things out. And you had a bed there. Go ahead.
It did not feel like it was exclusively my office. I mean, it's kind of hard to describe. If you had a big building with a lot of space, and if everybody had an office, there would be probably some walls and doors. So imagine if everybody had an office, but there were no walls and doors. So I had an office, like a desk and a bed. Other people did too. I just didn't seem to be anybody there, and there was no partitions or barriers.
And it may or may not end up being relevant that there was this sense of kind of a grand scale of the space and there were no other people there. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. Maybe I won't be able to figure it out, but definitely interesting to kind of clarify that too and to evoke that understanding of, this felt like it wasn't just my space. It wasn't my entire large space to myself alone. And in terms of the bed, a recognizable bed from home or real life in any way, or any particular type of bed,
as I remember it, just like a single bed, a twin bed, not a double queen or just a single bed. Like nothing fancy, almost like a cot.
Almost like a cot.
Maybe I sleep at the office sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and the nature of the bed too. So, I mean, this is where we start parsing it out a little bit. We would be getting a different understanding of what's happening if, yes, this space was all mine, no one used it but me, and this bed was a 4-poster king size, with the drapes ornately carved. No, this is very functional, very small. Right. It's a shared space. This is just your part of it. Starting to put together those little connections. Any idea of the material it's made out of? Wood, brass, the bedding, the colors of the sheets, anything?
White sheets, very Spartan. Like I said, like nothing, like just a basic cot, let's say.
Mm-hmm. And you noticed there was a young boy there before you saw that it had been peed on. Yeah, I mean, I saw the boy. Really, I say 2 years old, and yet he could walk and run, so it might have been more like 3 or 4, but I said 2. He'd all over the bed. And I saw, he was on the bed, yellow urine on it, and he quickly gets off the bed, goes out the door, runs down the hallway. Kind of like I don't want to say I caught him, but I saw him pee on the bed. Yeah, did you have any sense of movement through this room at all? Like you walked to the bed or suddenly you were just in this space and right in front of you is the bed. You didn't move at all. You're just observing. You didn't approach the bed and startle him, anything?
That's a good question. I wrote it down, but I don't know. I just, it was kind of like the opening the dream. I'm in my office. It has a bed.
Yeah.
Very open air office. There's a boy who's just peed on the bed, hopping off, running down the hallway. So it all happened really fast. I can see a bright yellow stain on the bed.
Fair enough. No, that's fine. And I ask a lot of, what I do is I call rattling doorknobs. I ask questions that have no answers. Don't feel free not to invent anything, just to give me an answer. You say, no, never saw that. Didn't feel that. I have no idea. You didn't experience it. It didn't happen. And that's fine too, because sometimes that helps me. Okay, we're dealing with this particular kind of thing. There was no approach to the bed. There was no entry to the room. You're in there. you're observing this immediately, have just kind of a knowing of what the space entails. So any remembered features of the boy, the way he was dressed, haircut, general appearance?
I want to say blonde, but it kind of happened so fast, hopped off the bed, running down a hallway away from me.
Gotcha. Did his clothes appear to be wet, or really no idea of that context?
Don't know.
That image. Okay. Any demeanor or expression or emotional resonance from the boy in terms of what he was feeling, thinking? Was he embarrassed? Was he malicious? Was this accidental or on purpose? Or
man, I'd just be stabbing at it. I think he felt a little guilty, but I don't think it was malicious or on purpose or anything.
Sure.
Especially since the dad seemed to kind of apologize for him. Do you remember the dad said he had diabetes, and that seemed to be like he was making, this is why he peed on your bed, like he can't hold.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So maybe a little bit of guilt, but that's the best I could come up with.
Gotcha. That's mostly what I wanted to tease out. Yeah. Did this seem like accidental or malicious? Yeah. And you didn't get that vibe of like, he wasn't standing off the bed, peeing onto the bed on purpose. It just kind of, yeah. That's a whole different kind of thing. So you follow him. If you could help me get a little bit of an understanding or a visual of where in the office space, so to speak, did he run through or to, did he go all the way down to the far end and then enter a hallway, or was the hallway right behind you or was the hallway across the other side of the bed from you?
The big square office space, so I'm going to call it 80 by 80, but right next to where my, say, desk and bed was, the hallway.
Okay.
And it went like I was right there. Like hopped off the bed, poof, down the hallway. And it opened up to another large room where there appeared to be some kind of class going. That's where he met his dad. His dad was a young man. And I asked the man, is this your son? He goes, yes, but he has diabetes. And I told the man, his son peed all over my bed. My father had a speech impediment. I felt kind of sorry for him. I wasn't mad.
Yeah. And before you go too far into that, that's like the next interaction after. I'm trying to focus on the experience of travel. Do you remember running after him or just casual steps? Was it one of those rare experiences where people feel like they just float forward like cameras on a dolly?
I think I just followed him because the hallway itself wasn't very long, like 10 or 20 feet.
Okay.
Just a short hallway, and then it opened up into another room where there appeared to be a lot of people and some kind of class going on.
Yeah, and that's the thing also that I wanted to get. So it opened up into another large room, same size as the first one?
I didn't get that far because I kind of met the young man and the son kind of at the other end of the hallway. So I never got into the other room.
Okay.
I just know there was a bunch of people there, and it seemed like there was some event or class going on.
That was how you described it, like a classroom. And that's probably the concept or terminology we want to go with, because that's the impression you got from it. Well, this is at least like a classroom. And then we could think of what those ideas are associated with.
I couldn't tell you. It just seemed like I might be mismaking this up, just like a big empty space with a bunch of folding chairs and somebody was talking about something. So I say a class rather than a classroom.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's what I actually might have written down, classroom, but it was as if a class was being taught in a room.
Right.
Gotcha. But they were there for a reason. That reason seemed to be like listening to someone, learning something. And did it seem like the class was over and coincidentally he was walking out, or was he interrupted in his learning and brought out to deal with the kid?
It kind of felt like the class had just ended.
Okay. And he was the only one, the young father was the only one that came out into that hallway, or was there like a stream of other people going by?
There were people behind him, but I didn't really see them. There were other people there. Yeah. Nobody streamed by me. They were just still in the big room. Nobody just kind of met the dad right at where the hallway met the room.
How were the say father and son position, did the son run into the classroom and disappear like he's going to go hide? Or was he hiding behind his dad or just standing next to him? Or was he just gone? You have no idea where he went.
I think he ran past his dad because I was going to follow the son and see if I could find this little kid's parents. And the first guy that shows up is this guy. He says, yeah, I'm his dad.
Any identifying features of this guy? Did he remind you of anything or, clothing, again, hairstyle, general demeanor?
Don't remember. All I remember, in fact, write any details down. I don't remember, just that he was young and had a speech impediment.
Okay.
Father did. I can't tell you brown hair, tall, short, what kind of clothing.
What nature of speech impediment, if you have a recollection of it? Was it kind of it doesn't pronounce things very well and like a little lispy?
Yeah, like that, or maybe he was young, so probably not like that. How somebody sounds when they've had a stroke. They're just
that's kind of what I was going for there too. A little bit, just not forming words well.
Exactly. Okay. Speaking a little slowly, hard to enunciate.
Gotcha. I mean, and the first thing that comes to my mind is, so this person seems to have difficulty communicating. Not unable, but difficult. There's something, an impediment to communication, literally, a speech impediment. What that means, how it fits, I don't know. This is where my brain goes. Sometimes I just let things percolate and I don't ask any further because you don't know exactly what it was. If you did, you'd say it was exactly this, but more the general idea. And there was a segment there where I completely lost. You were giving me kind of quotes. I said, he said. I wanted to try and nail those down a little bit better because they might mean something. The specific phrasing, they might not.
The quote was, I asked the young man if this was his son, and he says, yes, but he has diabetes. That's the only thing.
So, if you were to just read that little passage again in terms of, so you said to him, is this your son? He said, yes, he has diabetes. And what else was the exchange?
And then after that, I said all over my bed. And that's all I said. And the father didn't say anything back, but I felt badly because the father had a speech impediment and decided to go back and clean sheets.
So he never specifically said, I'm sorry, or to your knowledge, offered a specific apology, but you felt that when he said, he offered you an explanation that was by way of apology, kind of.
Exactly.
Okay. Sometimes it can be. That's one way to look at it. It's not explicit, but it can be like, and there's definitely like reinforcing your initial impression that this was not malicious. You've got the authority figure responsible for the boy giving you more of a direct communication of, he didn't do this to you, like to you personally, or he didn't do this on purpose at all. And even giving you an explanation where you're like, okay, I get it. I mean, it happens. Something that makes sense to you is a reasonable explanation for why that would happen. I can't read my own handwriting. Okay, so how did the interaction end? Did you just turn and walk away, or were you scene cut suddenly somewhere else?
No, I just felt bad. Like, this little boy had a very young man for a father with a speech impediment, and I'm just not going to push it anymore. So I just turned around and walked back down the hallway to my office to strip the bed and wash the sheets.
Okay. When you say young, how young would you figure?
Father,
yeah,
early 20s.
Okay. I mean, that's young compared to both of us, I'd imagine. But there's young as in like he was real young. He's like, this is he's in class because he's still in high school. He's young, but no, this is more like early 20s. So
late teens, early 20s.
Yeah, normal age to get started, relative to normal, whatever that is. So you decided to leave and go to address the problem. Do you remember how you made that decision, or did it occur to you, well, I better go clean up, or I should wash the sheets?
Yeah, no, I just didn't want to belabor the point that his son peed all over the bed.
Yeah, what are you going to do, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just going to go wash the sheets.
So do you have a memory of walking back down the hallway into the office? Or not specifically?
Not specifically. Happened very quickly that suddenly I'm on the second floor.
Okay.
Putting him in a washing machine, but up there, I'm looking down on that open air office. Like I have a good bird's eye view from up there of the open air office.
That's right. Those are some of the details that are not in my notes, or that I wrote so quickly I can't read them.
And then just one little thing. So I throw them in the wash with laundry detergent. And as I'm looking down, I'm thinking, I should talk to the landlord and we should set up some walls between all these desks and everything, because everybody can just be in everybody's business. And this whole office is open to this hallway that's connected to this other room. I was like, I should put some walls up around all the desks and the.
Okay. Gotcha. I wanted to get that as clearly as I could in there. And you did say, I think initially, that you'd had some specific kind of a thought about how to get the sheets clean the best way. And it was because it was still a fresh mess that a certain kind of detergent would work best.
Well, background. I owned a company for years where we made a biodegradable, non-toxic product for cleaning up after, I'm sure you've had dog and cat pee on the carpet, you know,
yeah.
Want to get rid of the stain and the odor. And I knew from experience that once urine had a chance to dry, it's good to use an enzyme cleaner. But because it was fresh, I knew I could just throw it right in the wash and it would probably come right out. So
okay. Almost a general idea that because it was a fresh mess, it would be easier to clean up than if you ignored it and let it get set.
It'd be easier to clean in the washing machine than to try and treat the spot like directly. Just
Gotcha.
strip it, throw it in the washing machine, because everything was still soaking wet. It hadn't dried, hadn't turned into a stain or anything like that. I'll just throw it in the washing machine.
Get my own thoughts down here in a way. So you did the process of throw it in. You had your thought. You did the motion or behavior of throwing it in there, and then after it was started to run, you were able to then take time to look over this kind of a balcony or something.
It was kind of like it's funny. Even the second floor was sort of open air. There was like this balcony, and I'm looking down, going, "Oh, we should put some walls between all of our, desks and my bed and a door, so people aren't going in and out of the hallway all the time." So I was like,
For sure. Yeah. And did you have the thought at that moment that this would be adding those partitions in a way would prevent what you had experienced, the boy, the need?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
It was like, we should put some walls up so this doesn't happen again.
Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. And so, there was a next segment. I just wrote down recording studio. That was the last thing I could get out before we kind of wrap it up and start it over. So what was the next sequence of images or events that brought you away from the washing machine to
Well, and so this is kind of odd. Like in the dream, like I heard about it, but I actually could see it at the same time. And I just write down, Here another man moved his office to a new location, set it all up, music recording studio, and he was so happy. So, and I just said I thought it sounded really cool, and I was envious, even though I don't play any instruments. And that's the end of the dream.
Okay. And then I woke up. Very cool. Okay. I didn't offer a lot of feedback there. I was really trying to see it, but that is basically the end of what I call the deep dive. Step 2, we just go through it again. I see it a little more clearly, get an idea of the sequence of events, kind of explain what the descriptions mean a little bit more. Now, before I launch into trying to offer suggestions, I like to ask people, while we were going through it that second time, did anything occur to you about what makes sense for specific experiences or images? Did you relate it to anything?
Well, so can I just tell you my conclusion from the dream, which isn't like very detailed, but just kind of an overall broad conclusion? Or do you want like detail by detail or?
That's kind of tough. What's the best way to handle this? What I want to do is keep me in mystery, probably, so I can,
okay.
But it's tough because you have actually thought about it enough to kind of have some of your own ideas, which I want to know. And so I'm trying to figure out what's the best way to have you add that stuff in. I wonder, because I've done it a couple of different ways in the past. I've done let me try to lead you to what I think it might mean, and then we'll compare that afterwards to what you came up with on your own. But maybe this time we go the other way around, and you give me a head start with some of your own impressions, and I can see if I can expand on what I was already thinking using that framework. Maybe that's it. I like to change it up once in a while. I'm trying to expand my skills and talents anyway. So let's do that. Okay. I had to think it through out loud. What do you got?
Well, so, I admit I am sometimes a lazy dream interpreter, and sometimes I should go through all the details more closely. But I sometimes like to just come away with the impression. The thing that grabbed me was, I took all the dirty sheets up to the washing machine on the second floor, and I could look down. That's kind of like having that sort of bird's eye view of a problem. And I was like, oh, that's the problem. We should put some walls up between all the desks and maybe some doors, And then the end where a guy went to a new location and set up his whole music recording studio. So my interpretation of the dream, knowing there could be way more to it, is I need to be better about maintaining my own space, the boundaries up. Even as I read the dream to you, because I had the dream about a month ago, I was like going, "Oh, that was a really good dream." And you're right. I need a room in my house that's essentially my recording studio, even though I don't play music, a place that do art and write. And I don't really have one set space where I go and do that. I'm reading this dream going, I meant to do that. That was a good idea. And so I'm not sure about the office with the bed and the 2-year-old with diabetes and the young man who's a father who's got the speech impediment. I'm sure there's more to the dream, but I just kind of came away from it like sometimes, usually I'm pretty good at it, but I'm a person that really likes his space. Dreamers need their space, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Those are definitely things I was going to highlight. That's exactly. You were thinking along the same veins as me. The reason I usually like to give my suggestions first is then I don't just end up sounding afterwards like, oh, totally. I thought the same thing. Yeah. Right. Yeah. But believe me or don't, I did. Right. But so the idea of a problem, and specifically like right at the end, those very strong thoughts of this is one big undifferentiated space there was a problem because of the lack of boundaries, say, and specifically walls, partitions, separations. So in general, that's the idea of that thing. So it may come down to, yes, specifically in your life, you want a physical room of your own. It can also relate, there's all kinds of different boundaries. It can relate to relationship boundaries is usually the one that most people struggle with, setting limits. So that's kind of where I was going with that. In terms of looking at, so your conclusion was better boundaries or separation of space to prevent a problem. Then we go back and look at, well, what is the problem that spurred the idea of coming to that conclusion? So that's kind of where we go backwards in a way. But starting from your own natural instinctive understanding of something needs a boundary, something needs a separation to resolve a problem. So I'm going to guess the problem is not in your real life actual bedwetting. I mean, it could be. There's no shame in it, but I'm just going to assume, right?
And interestingly, I did have that problem when I was a kid. I ended up having some surgery to stop that. And so I did kind of like, it's like, is there something childhood here? But I couldn't really.
Yeah. And it may have been nothing more than just a simple callback to that memory of, here's a problem that was solved by a specific method. But your brain wants to show you someone else a person, whether it's you or not. I mean, you didn't get the sense in the dream that it was you. Some people think everything in the dream is us. You're the bed and the bedwetter and the pee and the hallway and the building. It's all you. I think we just see things that fit our conceptions of stuff. But sometimes let's say the boy, it could be a representation of you in a way, or something you used to be. Sometimes it's either ourselves or others, or some other symbol. But so in this sense, it seemed like this is a problem exterior to yourself. This wasn't immediately recognizable as, oh my God, that's me. That's young me. Even if it was a simple problem, or a similar problem. So here's a person who may be diverging. If we go with the idea that this is something that happened to you, it may be an iconic image way from your past, or at least something that came to mind as representative of the concept of having a problem that needs to be solved. Here's a person who does not have the problem under control, has not achieved a resolution to it in a way that keeps him from being embarrassed. He didn't like it. He ran away. He wasn't proud of it. And the boy, in your mind, the story you're telling yourself, it seems like, well, naturally he's going to go seek comfort or possibly a solution from an authority figure, the chief authority figure of his life, his father. When you get there, you realize this is not the best possible authority figure. He's young. He probably doesn't have the answers either. And the best he can manage is an apology by way of explanation, like just letting you know, we understand this is a problem, at least reassuring you that it was not malicious, that this is a legitimate problem. He didn't do it on purpose, but it's still a problem. It's like there's things where, like, yeah, it's a problem if you punch someone on purpose. It's also a problem if you turn around carelessly and elbow them. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. You still hit them, but it's a different kind of problem. So, you accept that and return to dealing with the problem on your own. Like, this still needs to be fixed. I'm not getting a resolution here. This doesn't seem like where I'm going to find an answer. So you go to just take care of it yourself. And in taking care of it yourself, that idea comes up of, well, if there was a way to prevent this, that would be best. Because shit happens. I don't know if talking it through in that form brought anything to mind. I like to pause every now and again and let people throw in their own 2 cents. It did or it didn't. You got inspired, or another connection fell into place.
No other connections. I mean, I've tried. I just couldn't really have any connections to the 2-year-old, the young dad with a speech impediment. That was a good take on, going to an authority figure who really wasn't much of an authority figure. He's just a kid.
Yeah, not a good source. He's not going to get the answers he needs there. It's he's going somewhere that's not going to fix the problem. And you recognize that right away and like, look, I'll deal with it. Okay, thanks. No, thanks. No problem. Oh, and the idea, too, I've got the speech impediment thing. I focused in on that a little bit as we were talking about, but the idea of communication. So there's maybe a connection there with the idea of if the father was older, wiser, if he could speak more clearly, if he could communicate better, maybe those features he lacks would have changed the situation or positively benefited the situation for his sons. Like the son's kind of, in a way, he's got a real problem, but he's suffering from the lack of capacity in the father in whatever form that is. And it's coming across in these can't talk well, like me sometimes, and not old enough to really know what he's doing. It would be better if he were more capable. There's like a lack of capacity in that person to provide a good solution. Yeah, that's all the connections I'm getting there too. When we hit a bit of not an end, but when there's no immediately forthcoming, what am I trying to say? Associations that leap to your mind from the discussion of it, then I like to maybe shift a little bit and ask people about what was going on in their life at the time the dream happened.
That's a good question.
What do you got going on?
Well, you're going to laugh. I mean, it sounds really funny, but my wife and I were on a 5-week road trip. And I love my wife. We travel really well together. But, 5 weeks on the road together in each other's space 24/7. I think there was something coming through the dream where I was kind of feeling like, I need some quiet time. I need some alone time.
Yeah. No, that's a very strong connection. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was my, because that was a great question because that's what was going on. Like, you don't go on long road trips like that all the time. It's kind of an unusual thing. So,
yeah. And that's a unique circumstance too. So what do we got going on with that is you are by necessity traveling together all the time. I mean, the only thing you can do is maybe she stays in the hotel room and you go off for a walk to get some space. You're in the car together. You're in the hotel together.
Long drives together. Yeah.
Long drives together. So there's definitely something there about forced together in a small space, perhaps. And maybe so you would dream of, what if I had a big space? And maybe you were even missing work in a way. Because sometimes...
Well, yeah, I was loving being on vacation, but at the same time, I was kind of feeling like I wanted to be really creative, but we were just go, drives. Everything we were doing was fun. It was great, but a part of me wanted to have some quiet time and be really creative. And I think that's part of the reason the dream bubbled forth,
For sure. And there's something going on with the idea of travel, go to the movies even. So let's say go to the movies. It's a fun experience and it may be worthwhile and it may be moving and inspirational and informative and all these things, but it's not productive. You sit and passively receive. You make nothing as a result of it. It's not work in that productive sense. So nothing wrong with a fantastic, long, multi-week road trip. It's an amazing experience, but there's always going to be a backup. And I don't know if it's a male-female thing, but for me, it's like I almost can't sit still sometimes. I got to be productive in some ways. And so the idea of going on a week-long vacation somewhere else, I'm like, but I can't edit any books and I can't interview any people. And there's so many things I want to do. There's projects like, when am I going to mow the lawn? Like, all of these, things I consider a work and they make you sweat and sometimes you don't want to do it, but God, after it's done, you feel great. Long story short, I'm rambling. So there may be,
I hear you. I totally hear you, brother.
So there may have been that explanation for the large office space and the idea that it's large because you wish you had more space, but it's also office because you're thinking of work. And then you've got, you probably shared a bed on this trip with another person, and that probably made the bed feel really small. And a lot of the beds were probably really small just to begin with, like twins and almost
queens. Yep.
Yeah. So you're packed into this bed. And the other thing is you're sharing this experience with another person that you can't get away from, and you love them. And there's nothing wrong with spending time with people, but all of us need different amounts of our alone time. So there may be this, rather than dreaming about your wife and the road trip specifically, your brain may be, I hate to say this to because it sounds worse than it is, but you may have been feeling guilty about wanting space. I'm supposed to be with my wife and enjoy being with her. Why do I want to be alone? It seems disrespectful or mean, or so there may have been a guilty part of yourself that didn't want to show you this problem you were formulating in its real character. So it put a boy in there it's like it's nobody's fault that you are wanting space, and it's not wrong to want space. And it's involuntary almost. So it's almost as involuntary as a 2-year-old that wet the bed. He doesn't know what he's doing. It's not his fault. And you may have been, in a way, feeling unable to speak up, lacking the words to express yourself on this vacation together to say, here's why I might have been cranky one morning, because I'm not getting enough alone time, and I didn't want to say it because I didn't want to be rude or make you feel like I didn't want to be with you. I don't know if any of this is connecting at all. I'm just rambling at this point. But
actually, I think it's all really good connections, actually. Very good. Yeah.
Okay. So if
there definitely was the element of not just wanting space, actually wanting to do something active and creative. And there, we kind of had booked our time so much. It was drive, visit all the national parks, drive, visit, there really wasn't the time to sit down like, we're just going to take a day off and something creatively today.
Yeah.
And I very much enjoyed everything that we were doing. I was missing that sort of the grass, the work, the sense of like, okay, I got that done. I feel good now.
For sure. And there's this young father coming out of a classroom as well, too. It's like he's still learning. He's still trying to acquire this ability, get something for himself that he lacks, whatever it is, to be able to provide that solution.
No, I didn't say in there. Yeah. I had the feeling that classroom had a bunch of young parents who also have had some kind of handicap of some kind. They were all learning how to be good parents. So gotcha. I can't say it was that way, but that's what kind of felt like. This man came out like he was coming out of a class where they were learning to be parents.
Yeah. And there's a sense of, if we think of the young child as representing some iconic imagery from your past, so it's you in a way. It's an earlier version of you in a different part of life. There's something very common we do is we try to fix the mistakes of our parents by way of parenting ourselves. Like, I'm explaining this wrong, but it's also what we do with our own kids in the sense of like, I'm going to make different choices. And, no matter how good our parents were, sometimes we look back at the past and choices they made and choices we made, and we say, I'd do that differently now because I've had time to think about it and decide a better way. So in a way, we parent ourselves even after we're grown up. We become our own parents in a sense. Now we are the self-teacher because we're not living under our parents' authority. We're not actively learning. We have to seek out people to learn from. Was going somewhere with that. So it might have been, there was a connection there. It was the idea of you maybe struggling with how to feel about wanting your space and enjoying being together and feeling a little guilty about wanting to be separate when you're supposed to be enjoying being together more and feeling guilty of not enjoying yourself more because you miss being productive. And so there may be this, so the boy and the father may both be you in this dream. It's not always the case. It's very often other people. But it might be, this is all your conceptualizing your internal space, and sorting through your feelings on how to respond to these desires in the situation you're in, where you're stuck together and you're on a mission and all that other stuff I said too. I mean, if that makes sense to you, then that might be the whole source of it.
Yeah. That's good. Really good.
Well, I mean, did you have any additional thoughts or feelings? Or I know you got a hard out here, and I want to respect your time. So
Yeah, I know. I appreciate that. So, nothing. Just super fun here chatting with you, chatting dreams, and love watching your cats walk around back there.
I know, right? So. I try not to get distracted by it, but that hardly ever.
Jordan Peterson wrote a book. I didn't read it, but it cracked me up because it was like 12 rules for life or something like that. And his 12th rule was, you see a cat on the side of the road, pet it.
Yeah.
I always follow that rule. And I tell my wife there are three kinds of cats. There's the ones that come running towards you like a dog, like, yay! There's other ones like, you're going to have to kind of seduce me before I come see you. And then there's the aloof ones that stay on the porch and say, dude, get away from me.
Yeah, so, if you come near me, I'm going to run away. This isn't happening. Yeah. Well, I have very much appreciated your time and the opportunity to challenge my rambling, abstracty, wizardly powers, so to speak. But we'll get you out of here. We'll do the housekeeping. This, once again, for everyone, links in the description below. I forgot to mention it's johndavidlatta.com. That's Latta, Latta, johndavidlatta.com. And that's where you can get the Synchronicity of Love stories that heal, transform, and awaken. Yeah. And, just my own housekeeping real quick. Please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. Always need more volunteer dreamers. 14 books of historical dream literature. Book 14, Dreams in Homer and Greek Tragedy. Very, very proud of that one. Proud of all my works, but that one especially, because it's the most recent. That's it. We're just going to say goodbye. John, thanks for being here, and everybody, thanks for listening.
Thanks so much, Benjamin.